and glad to welcome our first guest this morning as we begin the 7 o'clock hour. Former basketball star at Ole Miss, current athletics director at Ole Miss, and future hopeful professional turkey hunter. Keith Carter joins us this morning. Good morning, Keith.
Good morning, Richard. What an introduction.
Well, it's the best that I could do. I do have to ask you, what gives you a bigger thrill? Sitting in the woods as the sun is coming up and hearing that gobble that's not too far away, or seeing your men's basketball team go on a 19-2 run in the first half to get in a really good position against a good Iowa State team to advance to the Sweet 16?
Yeah, now that's an easy one. You know, the basketball team, the success on both the men's and the women's side has just been, phenomenal this year, and so much fun to follow. And obviously that game on Sunday was incredible. So just happy for Coach Beard, Coach Yo, and the student athletes that they're in the mix in March. That's what it's all about.
It was quite a weekend for you, right? Back and forth between Milwaukee and Waco, and trying to support and cheer on and do whatever you can in your position to make sure that that your coaches and your student athletes have all that they need to be successful. But geographically, not the easiest of weekends.
No, it's not, and it's unfortunate. This weekend too, we're both playing on Friday and in similar game time, so hard to be in two places at once. But we have a great team here. We have folks obviously with the men's team and the women's team that are doing a great job for us with the logistics and making sure the teams are comfortable and have everything that they need. And just candidly, this is kind of a new for us. Coach Yo has taken her team to the Sweet 16, a few years ago, but on the men's side, first time in the tournament since 2019, and a lot of logistics to take care of here, over the past couple of weeks, and we're obviously very happy that that's the case, but a lot of work for folks. But for me, I'm lucky. I just get to kind of show up for the games and enjoy the games and do all those things. But a great team, is behind the scenes getting the work done.
Do you allow yourself to be a fan when the game itself is going on, or can you separate all of the, I guess, kind of all of what is at stake when, like the men's basketball team is playing against Michigan State on Friday night with cheering your heart out?
A little of both. I mean, I wouldn't want a camera on me the whole game because they'd probably get some interesting shots of me, being a fan and getting into the game. But at the same time, you're trying to keep your administrator hat on and trying to stay somewhat even keel if you can. But it's just a lot of fun. And obviously, with my history here with basketball, it's been great to see, again, both programs have the success that they've had, and really cool to get basketball where we want it to be at Ole Miss.
Visiting with Keith Carter, athletics director at Ole Miss. Both the men's and women's teams are in the Sweet 16. The women's team playing in Spokane, Washington against the number 1 overall seed UCLA. The men's team playing against Michigan State, who is a 3 seed in the South region. That game tips off at just after 6 o'clock on Friday night. I was with the guys yesterday afternoon on Sports Talk, and a question came up. You got baseball and basketball on Friday, obviously in different places, but playing at the same time. And there was a question as to whether or not there had been any consideration to moving the start time of the baseball game because you got so many people that are going to be invested in basketball at that time.
No, probably not. I mean, it's just, it is unfortunate, again, that we've got game times that kind of, are at the same time. But, we try to keep baseball in a routine as well. And they're a Thursday, Friday, Saturday series this weekend. And, want to make sure that they kind of stay in their routine as well. And I know they'll be rooting for the Rebs on the basketball court, but obviously a huge series for baseball as well, here in Oxford against Florida.
Keith, the college athletics landscape has changed dramatically and is continuing to evolve. And, for longtime fans, there's some people that have said, I just can't do it anymore. It's too much. There's some people that have said, hey, whatever the system is, let's be as competitive as we can in it. From the chair that you sit in, where you are trying to give everything or give everybody everything they need, whether we're talking about coaches or players or fans, staff members, like all of the above. What's your biggest concern right now when you look at where college athletics is?
Well, I think, again, candidly, I have those same thoughts. I mean, there's days that I wake up and I'm like, holy cow, we're going down a really, tough road here. And then there's days I wake up where I'm super energized with, trying to figure out this new model. But it's just a lot of change. And, I think that, everything in life is about, change and accepting change, and college athletics is no different. Now, this is a big change. Obviously we're changing with revenue share and, the house settlement and all those things. But, I think that the main thing that I would just want to say to our fans and fans of college athletics is that, these young people still love what they do. I was in the locker room, Sunday night after we won the game, and, these are 18 to 22-year-old young men and women that want to come and get an education, and they want to play the sport that they love. That hasn't changed. And so the model's changing a little bit, and we've got to figure out, how to sustain it and how to fund it and those type of things. But, I think that at the core, college athletics is still about young people and getting to do what they love to do.
I have to remind myself sometimes in this new time slot that if we're talking about a sports topic, especially one that's complicated, not everybody that listens in the morning has been as plugged in as some sports fans are. You mentioned the house settlement. Can you give us like the Reader's Digest version of what is going on with that particular court case as it pertains to college athletics?
Yeah, there was a case, a young person went with a lawsuit against the NCAA, basically asking for the right for them to be able to use their name, image, and likeness, the right for them to have some of the revenue that athletics produces. And it's made its way down the tracks, and we're close to a settlement. April 7th is the date that the judge will hear kind of final remarks and information on the case, and we think it will settle shortly after that. And basically the gist of it is that there's some players that played for a time period that are going to get some backwards looking damages. They're going to get some money that maybe they were owed from a revenue share component, and then moving forward, we're going to be spending about $20.5 million in the first year. There's an escalator on that moving forward to our student athletes, and we'll be sharing revenue with them. And again, it's something that it's a math problem. It's something that we have to figure out, but I'm all for it. I think, and I've said a lot, nobody came to Oxford last fall to see me or any of our administrators play football. They came to see Jackson and Trey and, all of our great players, and they deserve a piece of it. So we want to share it. We want to make sure that we do it the right way. But again, it is a funding issue that we got to work through, and we're doing that as we speak.
So basically a new $20 million budget item or line item in your budget, money that you were not necessarily spending previously. You're not alone in that. Everybody in the SEC, most of the teams in college athletics are trying to figure out how to do that as well. From where does that money come?
Well, it comes from a lot of different places, and it comes from new revenue sources. We're trying to be creative there, with concerts, and obviously, people have seen some of the changes we're making with the Grove and other ideas to create revenue. The Chancellor has been a great support of athletics. He's somebody who certainly understands the value of athletics to the institution, so he's been a huge help in these conversations. Cutting expenses, trying to find ways to get skinnier with our athletic department, with our programs, and, focus on the expenses that affect winning, and trying to cut our budget there to come up with this. But, we're going to ask donors to help us. I mean, our Ole Miss donors have been fantastic over the years. I came up through fundraising at Ole Miss, and, our folks have always stepped up when we've needed them, and we're going to need them to do that again because, I think that, there's a price to pay in this for success, and I think we're enjoying the success, and we want to sustain it. So we'll certainly do everything we can to make sure that we have our seat at the table, in the top 20 with a lot of our programs.
I was reading a story a week or so ago. I think it was about Arizona State, and they kind of recognized the recognition they got with their football program and its success, and are basically rolling the athletics department into part of the university and saying, whatever it costs, the university is going to make sure that money is there because we believe in the overall value of this. Is there anything like that's happening at Ole Miss? And forgive me, only about 45 seconds left.
Yeah, well, again, Chancellor Boyce has been an awesome partner. He's my boss, but I look at him more as a partner in this. And, He's been very helpful, and I do think he understands the value of athletics, the branding equity and the branding power of athletics for the institution. And, he's been certainly involved in a lot of these conversations with House and, how we're moving forward. Not to the extent maybe that Arizona State is, but, I think our chancellor certainly understands that there's value with the institution supporting the athletics department, and he certainly has done that, and I think will continue to.
Keith Carter, athletics director at Ole Miss. A couple of basketball games coming up on Friday. Sweet 16 for the Ole Miss men's and women's teams coming up on Friday night. Thanks so much for your time this morning.
Yep. Enjoyed it, Richard. Have a good day.
We'll talk to you soon. More coming up. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.